Hello, Redeemer family, and everyone that is joined to us today. I am David Illescas, and during this month, we're going to talk about theology. We're going to have a 10-minute theology series, and the topic that we're going to see during this time is suffering. So we're going to answer the question why there is suffering. And it is a common question among us, because every one of us has felt suffering in any way, in any level. But there are intimate questions like, why am I suffering? Or maybe like, why all bad things are happening to me. And we're not blind to this situation. Suffering comes in every way from somewhere. And this COVID time, people getting COVID, families are getting COVID, your loved ones are dying, you are losing your job, maybe you lost your own business, and you don't know how to bring food to your home, to your table, and you are worried about it. And you can remember the hurricane that hit us like several weeks ago. So sometimes you are looking for answers, but you didn't find. You are looking for a purpose, but it seems that there's none. And your soul and your spirit begin to feel like God has forsaken you, or God is punishing you. And you begin to doubt in the kindness and goodness of God. And the question comes to your mind, is God good? Another question comes, why a loving God allows evil? Isn't He powerful and all-loving? And so why He doesn't stop it? But let me tell you, there are answers. And we hope we can help you to answer your questions, some of your questions. But also, we want to give you a biblical worldview about suffering, and not just concept, but also hope, because there is hope in the midst of suffering. And through this 4-video series, we're going to answer 4 questions. And so you can, after this, the last video, the 4th video, and during these challenging times, you can treasure more Christ and love your brothers and sisters and others more than you did before, than we did before. But also, this allows us that we can know that Christianity has an answer to this question, has a reasonable answer. And so the questions that we're going to talk about in order to answer the question why there is suffering are, what is suffering? Where does the suffering come from? Is there any purpose for suffering? And does God understand my suffering? So we're going to start with the first one. What is suffering? Suffering is a pain, whether physical, mental, spiritual, or emotional, that a person feels. And this pain results from disease, oppression, overwork, sin, betrayal, unrequited love, old age, etc. A lot of things. But it is not as simply as a concept given by the dictionary. Maybe you are going through one, or you still have the pain from something that happens long ago. And it doesn't matter if it is small or overwhelming. The thing is that you can feel it. The thing is that you can taste it. And you cannot turn a blind eye to this. So here's another point. Suffering is a reality. It'll be interesting to see some worldviews, some viewpoints about suffering that others have. So Some viewpoints that people have are that the problem of evil and suffering is just the way it is. So you just suffer, and there is not a purpose for your suffering. Others think that okay, you need to live to decrease the level of your suffering, and that is your goal in your life. But the question remains, why there is suffering? At least they think or they accept that this is a reality. Others think that it isn't, that there are an impersonal, cosmic, deterministic power, the destiny or fate, that subjugated all of what is happening here in the earth. And so you just accept your suffering, but it doesn't give you any answer. And this viewpoint doesn't even allow you to ask the question why there is suffering. Others have the idea that suffering is just a delusion. And if you are suffering, it's an illusion that you permit in your life. Or someone thinks that the suffering that you are having right now is because of sins of your past lives. They think that the purpose is overcome suffering or get rid of suffering, and this is the purpose of our life. But you can live as good as possible, and suffering will come from somewhere. So we have the Bible, and the Bible presents us another viewpoint. Yeah, the Bible says that it is a reality. It is not a delusion. And what you see in the Bible is a God that came to this earth and took the form of a servant, being born in the likeness of man. Jesus Christ, who was called the suffering servant, man of sorrows, and he was called to suffer. So the Bible presents us that God that experienced himself the suffering and gave a meaning to it. But we also need to know that there are two kinds of suffering or evil. And the first one is moral evil. And this moral evil is what people commit. Basically, it's sin. And it brings suffering to people. Sin brings suffering, yeah. It could be self-inflicted suffering. You can do something bad, and the consequences that you have make you suffer. Or suffer that comes from someone else. And it could be like a person that is walking in the street and he is hit by a car driven by a drunk man. And then you have moral evil. The people, what people commit. But you can also have natural evil, and this is another kind of evil or suffering. And this is something outside of our hands. You can see that in natural disasters. Hurricanes, floods, fires, earthquakes, tsunamis, animals attacks, COVID, Hannah hurricane. But in conclusion, we know that the existence of suffering is real, and we know that it is not an illusion, it is a reality. You can feel it, you can taste it. And you say, okay, there is suffering. But why there is suffering? That is the question. Why a loving God didn't stop it, which leads us to the second question, where does the suffering come from? And we'll answer this question the next week. But for now, you have to know something. Know that the Bible and the Christian faith can give us an answer and a purpose for suffering, because the God of the Bible experienced it by himself. So we'll see you in the next video.